Hello doll fans and welcome back to Beauty Inside a Box. Today I've got an interesting video for you. Throughout time there has been loads of examples of doll companies copying other doll companies, and sometimes it can be really blatant. Have you ever looked at a doll and thought, that doll looks familiar? Today I thought we would talk about the top 10 copycat doll lines that blatantly copied other doll lines. I'm sure you guys can think of loads of examples of copycat doll lines, so please let me know in the comments. But anyway, let's get on with the list. Okay, I thought we'd go right back to 1959 when Barbie was first released. Even at the very beginning, at the very inception of the fashion doll industry, Barbie was actually a copy of another doll. This is, I believe, a German doll called Lily? And she was actually a kind of like novelty toy. She was meant to be very provocative. She was based on a comic strip. Ruth Handler, the inventor of Barbie, saw this doll and thought if we made her a little bit more wholesome, maybe she could be marketed towards kids. Because at the time, most of the dolls that were made were either paper dolls or they were like baby dolls. No one had actually made like a plastic, physical fashion doll for kids. And as you can see, the resemblance is uncanny. And I believe there was even a court case, but I'm not 100% sure. But as you can see here, I mean, honestly, the doll looks exactly the same. Like they made a cast of the mold or something. The one on the left is Barbie, the one on the right is Lily. Then in the 80s, Hasbro was planning on getting into the fashion doll industry and decided to make a doll line called Gem and the Holograms. Gem and the Holograms would have an associated TV show, cartoon show, and a whole array of music. And Barbie, Mattel, heard about this doll line and rushed into production Barbie and the Rockers. And they actually, I watched this fantastic documentary which you should check out, it's on Netflix, called The Toys That Made Us, and they have a whole episode about Barbie. Mattel rushed these dolls into production. They were desperate to get Barbie and the Rockers out before Gem and the Holograms, and they managed to do it. And they used only materials that they already had, molds that they already had, and created these dolls. And honestly, again, the resemblance is uncanny. They look very similar, these two doll lines. And the marketing was quite similar as well. Barbie even brought out a cartoon film to advertise the dolls. And associated music, like, they were really going all in to try and rip off Gem and the Holograms. To be honest, I think both these doll lines look fantastic. I love the 80s. Isn't it so over the top and outrageous? Truly outrageous. See what I did there? Now, some of you may have heard of Cindy. Cindy was originally released in the 60s, and she was kind of meant to be a competitor to Barbie, but she did originally look quite different to Barbie. She had a much more youthful look about her. She wore mostly mod fashion. She originated in the UK, but in the late 80s, early 90s, Hasbro had the rights to Cindy, and they decided to make her look a little bit more American. And in doing so, they did make her look a lot like Barbie. And Barbie even took Hasbro to court, and they had to change her face mold, they had to change her body mold, they had to change quite a lot about Cindy to make sure that she didn't look too much like Barbie, because they were really encroaching on Barbie's territory. And Barbie really does not do well when there is competition looming over the horizon. I thought I'd give this doll line kind of an honourable mention. Steffi Love is a doll line which has been around for a really long time, and I've always thought she just looks so much like Barbie. She's clearly like a kind of more affordable version of Barbie. The Steffi Love dolls are often a lot cheaper than Barbies in the toy shop, and that would normally mean that the quality is less, and I think it has in the past, but now Barbie's quality is really depleting. Steffi Love actually in a lot of ways is better quality. Steffi Love is made by the company Simba. Now, I think the most infamous examples of doll lines trying to rip off and copycat other doll lines is when MGA brought out Bratz in 2001. Bratz were the first time Barbie had any real competition for her top spot as the #1 fashion doll. And obviously, immediately, Barbie decided to rip off Bratz and create a doll line which was incredibly similar, called My Scene. And as you can see from this image here, this is actually an image from an article, I think. The dolls look very similar. They both have big, cartoony heads with oversized lips and kind of very flirtatious eyes. Mattel has used the Barbie body sculpt, which I really hate when they do that. Like, it just kind of stops the doll lines from feeling unique. Another thing that was really revolutionary with Bratz was the fact that they had a group of 4 core dolls, which were all, you know, ethnically diverse. And obviously Barbie, when they brought out My Scene, did the same thing. They introduced a whole array of different skin tones into the line, and there was no kind of #1 main character like in the Barbie line. But you know, they did still sneak Barbie in there. They had a blonde doll that was called Barbie. And I have to say, I think this is the most egregious example of a doll company trying to rip off another doll company. Barbie just gets so stressed out when she has any competition. Mattel was definitely like, MGA, could I just copy your homework? And MGA was like, ugh, fine, but change it enough so that they don't realize. There was a lengthy court battle between MGA and Mattel over the rights to Bratz as well, because the guy that designed Bratz originally came up with the idea while he was working for Mattel. So Mattel was trying to say that the intellectual property belonged to them, and the court case went on for years. Barbie was really not backing down, but eventually MGA did win, and now they do have the rights to make Bratz, but at the moment Bratz are kind of on a bit of a hiatus. But I'm really excited for them to come back, which is apparently going to happen this year. I'm excited. I feel like the My Scene dolls must have been really rushed into production as well, because they only came out the year after Bratz. But Mattel isn't completely out of original ideas, because obviously in, I think, 2010, they brought out the doll line Monster High. Monster High was a really exciting line and very unique. It really encouraged individuality. And obviously Bratz decided to clearly copy Monster High by making a line of witch-themed Bratz. And these were called Bratzillas. Such a weird name. I feel like they could have thought of a better name, but anyway. I actually really liked the Bratzillas. Instead of them being themed to different monsters, they each had their own power, which I thought was cool. Like, one can make people fall in love, one can talk to animals, one can like see the future and stuff. I think it was a really cool idea and just different enough from Monster High. Another time when MGA copied another doll line, this one was slightly more low-key because I don't think either of these doll lines were ever extremely popular. Liv dolls were created by Spin Master. They were kind of bizarre dolls, but they had really intricate fashions and they had changeable wigs, which then Moxie, the kind of successor doll line to Bratz, decided to copy and made Moxie Teens, which were a similar height to the Liv dolls. They also had changeable wigs and intricate fashions. And they also have glass eyes as well, which some people don't like. I kind of go back and forth on them. But yeah, I definitely think the Moxie Teen dolls were meant to be a kind of copy of the Liv dolls. But it's kind of hard to say because neither of these doll lines were even that popular. Although Moxie Teens do sell for a lot of money online now. This is another kind of honourable mention one, but I really think that the Bratz Babies ponies were definitely meant to be a rip-off of My Little Pony, a kind of Bratz version of My Little Pony. And you could even kind of say that Bratz Babies were kind of piggybacking off the fad of baby dolls, like Baby Annabelle, Baby Alive, Baby Born. But again, a kind of Bratz version. Again, they were different enough from the other baby dolls and pony dolls to kind of feel like they were their own thing, but still I definitely think they were going for the same kind of audience. Okay, this one's a little bit confusing, but basically I believe Disney's Descendants to be a sort of rip-off of Ever After High. Now, this one's a bit confused because Ever After High came out first, but Disney, who were working with Mattel at the time to make the Disney Princess dolls, weren't very happy with Mattel when they brought out Ever After High because they felt like it was too similar to the Disney Princess line, which also obviously focused on princesses and fairy tale stories. So Disney left Mattel and took their doll manufacturing rights over to Hasbro, and then a couple years later brought out Descendants. Now, I do think the Descendants movies had been in production for a while, so it's kind of hard to say who copied who, but I definitely think the Descendants doll line borrowed a lot of aesthetic ideas and marketing ideas from Ever After High. So I would say this is a copy, personally. But what do you guys think? Last but not least, I feel like there have been quite a few examples of doll lines copying each other in the modern day, but it's kind of hard to say who's copying who because they're all copying each other at the moment. But I definitely think that Hair Adorable, Hair Amazing dolls are kind of a copy of the OMG dolls. They both come in very similar packaging. They are both kind of aged up teenage versions of a previous doll line. They both have a kind of surprise element and have a focus on funky fashions. I definitely think it's a kind of rip-off, but let me know what you think. Okay, doll fans, so there were 10 examples of copycat doll lines that have blatantly ripped off other doll lines. Let me know what you think of my list. Let me know if you agree with my list. Let me know if you can think of any more doll lines that were copying other doll lines. Also, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and check me out on Instagram, and I will see you real soon, doll fans. Bye!